Never regret giving everything you have to other people. And don't be stingy. There'll always be another paycheck that comes and rolls around. Nothing ever feels as good as making somebody else happy by
Go dummy, go beast on them. I go beast. Go deep, I OD on them. I OD. Apply pressure, put heat on them.
What's up? It's your man B.Holmes back with another episode of Doors to Success, where I lay out the B-print, which is me teaching you how to knock, open, and conquer the different doors of success in your life. Today, super excited, got a very special guest here, someone I've been keeping my eyes on for a long time in the industry, and we're here to have him tell his story. None other than my main man, Roman Miller. Roman, what up?
Thanks for having me on. How you doing?
Good, man. How are you?
Good. Real good.
Good. So how was the flight? You came from, where'd you come from?
Orlando, Florida.
Orlando, Florida. Little different temperature here?
Yeah, it's dry. Coming back out here, my nose is just all dry and crusty, and back to how it was back in Vegas. So it was nice being in Florida. Everything's moisturized and super humid, so it feels good. Out here, I'm all dry knuckle and ready to go back home again.
Ready to get back in the humidity?
Yep.
So let's jump in on that. So tell us, you said home is Vegas.
Yeah.
So where'd you grow up, man? Tell us about home a little bit. What's Vegas?
Yeah, I was born in Vegas, born and raised in Vegas.
Okay.
Spent my whole life there until I joined the military at 19.
19.
Yeah.
What branch?
Navy.
What made you choose Navy?
Just the program I wanted to go in.
Okay.
Just a different path. So be around, some different dudes. So
back up a little bit. Now, I have the pleasure of knowing your dad, knowing your old man, Jim Miller. If you don't know Jim Miller, he's famous. This man is famous. I've got so many stories on old Jim. But so Roman and myself have crossed paths multiple times in the industry. And in fact, there was a point in time where I worked with his dad, and he's just a character. Explain your dad in 3 words. Give me 3 words to explain old Jim.
Stone Cold Steve Austin. No, he's just selfless, caring, and God, there's so many words through stuff. So just the last one, just be just thoughtful, just always thinking about everybody but himself.
That's like impressive because if you saw your dad, he's got shaved head, big old goatee, big biceps, tattoos. Like the guy looks like he lives on a Harley.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
So when you explain who he is, I think that speaks to your character. So maybe what's one really important lesson that your dad taught you about life growing up?
Give everything that you have to. You'll never regret giving everything you have to other people. And don't be stingy. There'll always be another paycheck that comes and rolls around. Nothing ever feels as good as making somebody else happy by just getting them something, or giving them something, or being there for them. Growing up, my dad was always my biggest fan. Just no matter what I want to do, it didn't matter. He never told me no. I can't think of a single time where he was like, that's stupid, not seriously. And so a lot of people have these stories where they're like, oh, my parents always told me I was going to be a loser, like all this shit. Like I never had that, no matter what it was. And he was always 100%, even though his setup wasn't the greatest, went through a bunch of different divorces and, was taken advantage of. And he just never let that get to him. It was always just there for me and my sister the entire time. And I had a great life growing up as a kid. People look at my situation and think that, going through, well, he's been married 4 times now.
Yeah.
Mom was a drug addict. Second one was a drug addict. Third one needed drugs. And no, seriously, she did. She just wouldn't take them. And they would look at my situation and be like, oh, that fucking sucks. And I was like, well, I mean, that part of it does, but he never gave up on number one, which was his duty to, be there for me and my sister.
That's awesome. What do you have a story that reminds you that kind of embodies what you're talking about? Your dad just being selfless for you and your sister amongst everything going on.
Everything, but my I don't personally remember it. I think I have this vision in my head from the story. I've been told a million times by my grandma, but so I'm not sure if I remember it like truly from my own memory or if it's just because I was told a bunch of times. But my dad, either he just got divorced with he was his second wife, found out she was doing drugs, and we got out, and every single time he left the woman that he was with, he didn't take anything. He was like, I'm leaving, I'm gone. I don't want you to have anything on me. I don't want you to try to come after me for anything. We're just done. You can have everything, we'll leave, And so I saw my dad lose everything 3 different times growing up, And so he, after the second marriage, he left, and we moved into this apartment, and we didn't have anything. And he got a bed and put it in mine and my sister's room, and we would sleep on the bed, obviously. And he was a construction worker. I was a single parent, didn't make a lot of money, but he slept on the floor in the living room. I don't know how long, but just he could have easily slept on there with us, or you know what I mean. And so just that was like my first like early memory of like finding out who my dad was.
That's a big deal. Beds are a big deal. I'm like a big deal bed guy. Yeah. Like my wife is like, hey, if she invites her parents over, she's like, hey, you could come sleep in our bed. And I'm like, no one touches my bed. Yeah. Like to give up a bed is like, I would rather give someone $5,000 to not sleep in my bed. Yeah. So that's a big, I understand the magnitude there. Yeah. That's awesome, man. What about, so how do you meet Allie's current lady?
I don't know. I was in boot camp when I was in the military. Okay. And we were writing letters back and forth, and he said he had this girl and woman, and he loved her. And it was actually funny in boot camp. She wrote me a couple letters as well, which was cool. Wrote her a little bit, and then I don't really know how they met though. So
can I share my story that I first met Allie? Is it good for anything legal here?
I don't care. I don't know the story, but maybe I'm learning here too.
So I was the VP of sales for a company called Vivint Solar, and I had a couple 18 teams I'd go around and visit, and he was in the Vegas team, and the managers at the time are current partners, Austin and Morgan, and they're like telling me about the team. They'd recruited some guys, and I had introduced Mel to those guys because I'd known Mel from years before. And so I don't remember how that all went. It was years ago, but they're telling me about the different people. Like, hey, we got this guy, and he's a hoot. You got to see him. He's like this rock star, but like he's like freedom, like tattooed on this like America. Like he's got this like social media account where like he's just like ruthless about freedom and America. Like, so I got this guy, right, smashing beers on his forehead. Like I'm like, okay, this is the guy I'm envisioning, right? And they're like, and his wife, she's actually here working too. I'm like, really? Like, that's unique. I'm like, how old are they? Like, oh, I think they're in their like late 40s or whatever. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like, oh, it's Roman's dad. I'm like, oh, are you serious? So I'm like excited, right? Yeah. And I got this like Hulk Hogan looking guy I walked in and I knew exactly who he was. And I'm like, you must be Jim. I walked right up to him. And he went to introduce, I looked over and I kid you not, I see she is looking at someone's armpit, just staring at the armpit. And I'm like, wait, she's not. No, don't. And she was like, gotta go give it like,
I heard this story.
Gotta go lick the armpit. And I'm like, stop. Like I run over. I'm like, let me introduce you. Like, so it was a big joke. And there was a joke going on. And I was across the room observing this. And I run over and introduce myself. And she was super sweet. And so it was just funny to have this first interaction. And, but they've always exceeded expectations. And your dad is just, kind of like a silent hero of mine. I just think he's just such a good dude. He's such a stud. He's just so loyal, like you said. But last thing I want to talk about your dad. Tell us about his social media battle. He's got a little battle on social media. Tell me about the people would like to hear about his social media battle because I like to hear about it.
He just likes to to pick fights over the internet. You know, if he did it in person, he'd be in prison or murdered. Right, so it's like, well, I'd like to, you know, he wants to spread his word, you know, the gospel of, you know, Stone Cold. And so he just goes on there. He's passionate, you know, it's never, there's no ill intent. He's just passionate about it, you know, his views, and sometimes takes a little too far. And he's just very sarcastic.
So he gets banned, right?
And then he makes another one.
He gets banned. God. He makes another one. What's the name of his new account?
The artist, well, it's Tafka. I don't know what the last two letters are, but the artist formerly known as, is it James Miller?
James Miller. Yeah. The artist formerly known as James Miller.
And that's his alias now. So he can fly under the radar. And I think he's being a little bit more cautious with his words, because I think he's run out of emails to make a new Facebook account. So,
so I'm using this as, I think it's important to know, you know, where we've been and why we are who we are. And I'm talking about your pops because I feel like, me selfishly knowing the people involved here, it speaks a lot to your character, and I feel like it helps paint a really good picture of who you are and why. And furthermore, what I'm also impressed with is that, you know, while this time when he was working for me, you were with another company. And I want to talk about this because this is when I really started to realize what was going on. Was you were at another company because you came with us for like a week or so. And then you went to another company and you started to make a buzz. I think you did, you did how many accounts in a month? You did 33 solar installs in 1 month. Is that right?
Yeah.
Personally?
Yeah. Loans. Yeah.
33 loans, which is unheard of. You know, guys, that's like the top tier at any other company out there, any big box company. 30 plus loans is their top tier for their top pay. 31 was actually what it was at
in a month or a quarter?
In a quarter, yeah. Right? In a quarter. And you did it in a third of the time, which was impressive. And then the next month where it really started, and I'm talking to your pops, he's like, you got to talk to my boy. You got to talk to my boy. You got to get him over here. And I'm like, I think he's doing really good. Like, I don't want to rock the boat. The next quarter, you ended up starting with that as the manager, and how that team went and set some records, right? I think you guys did almost 5 megs. What did you guys end up doing that next year?
No, we did 6 megawatts. But that was in Colorado when I set that personal record. That was my first year.
Right.
I hated Colorado. Knocking in the snow sucks. When your feet get wet and
okay.
you're in the snow, it's like, I don't want to do this no more. So, towards the end of my first year there, that was my first year in solar, actually, in Colorado. I didn't really like my managers too much, and I just wanted to kind of grow and get better, and kind of felt in some ways they were holding me back. And so I told the president of the company that I wanted to go home because the market had started back up, because that's what happened. Remember, right. in Vegas, the market shut down. So that's why I went to Colorado with that other company. And so the market had opened back up, and I told him I wanted to go home and open up an office in Vegas. And so right before Christmas in 2018, they gave me the go-ahead, and I just moved back home and was like, I'm just going to start an office. And they're like, all right, good luck, motherfucker. And then got there, and my dad was obviously the first on board, January 1st. And then throughout that year, we just kept building, and actually ended the year, started at, 0 reps or 1. And then at the end of the year, ended with, I think it was like 920-something installs and about a little over 6 megawatts.
That's crazy. So 900 plus installs in a year as the first year manager, 33 installs in a month as a sales rep. Speak to a little bit about, because to do 33 in a month, I mean, you've got to have done that to know what that means, but you don't have a personal life to get that done. You've got to actually seriously commit, and then to start a team. For you, what's the difference between doing 33 personal in a month and then doing 900 in a year as a manager? Speak to the different skill sets that you needed, because you need 2 very different skill sets. But what did you notice as a rep doing 33 in a month, and then as a manager doing 900 in a year? What were the standout moments for you?
So everybody, they always talk about these, whatever, like the top athlete in any industry, whenever they do something crazy, like Formula One drivers or golfers or basketball players, and they do something just nutty that they're like, how'd this guy do this? And they always go interview him. And the most common answer is, I don't remember. I was just kind of in the zone. Like, they weren't doing anything different. They almost kind of just got into that little zone. So I didn't feel overworked. I didn't feel, because at the time it's fun. It's fun. Yeah. And when you're doing something that you enjoy, it's not draining. You just want to do more and more and more. And so luckily in this, when you get to that level of just like, you're just spitting fire, like you're just the voice of Jesus, and you're speaking to people and they're just buying it from you no matter what. It wasn't hard. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so getting to that point but doing it wasn't tough. You just had to focus on yourself, make sure you're doing all the right things in the house, and it's not very taxing. But then going in and obviously doing it, building a team and helping other people do that, it's shifting your goals and your wants and your desires onto for other people, and I never wanted to be the best rep anymore after I did that month. It was boring after that point. Like, cool, I did the shit. What, 34, 36, 40? Like, what does it matter? I'm already stoked. I'm making more money than I know what to do with, just buying stupid shit. So like doing it more myself is not enjoyable anymore.
Right.
And so going and moving into a different position to where you have to help other people do it is much more fulfilling. It's tougher because you have to learn to work with other people.
Right.
And help motivate them on how they need to be motivated. And that's the hardest part. But it's much more fulfilling. It's much more fulfilling because when you start making the type of money that guys in this industry make, it's not about the money anymore. Right. It doesn't matter. You whether I make $500,000, $1 million, 10 million, like my happiness level has not increased with my income. It really has not. But my happiness level does increase when other people are making more. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I love it, man. That's sage wisdom right there. And I think that wisdom and that logic, I actually have 2 questions that you made me think of. I'm going to ask you in a minute, but we'll stay on this vein. But staying on that vein, is with that logic in mind and that idea, what spurned you to want to have all the money in the world to buy crazy, stupid shit? Which my question is, what's the craziest, stupid thing you've ever bought with the money you made in solar? Hold that thought. But actually, you know what? What is it? What's the craziest, stupid thing you've ever bought with your solar money? Because people don't know what kind of money you can make in solar. And I try to tell people, and I actually keep my pay stubs back in the old Jersey days. And, when we had 8 teams and I was the direct manager, I was smart about it, right? Yeah. I kept my thumb close. So when people don't realize when you can pull, 7-figure checks under a 300-day period in a year, door-to-door sales, people don't believe you. But with that kind of money, things change. Yeah. So what's the craziest, stupidest thing you've ever bought with solar money?
Stupid shit. I wouldn't. So stupid. If I had to look back, stupid would be the Tesla. Okay. The Tesla. I loved it, but there's no point. Like, what's the point of doing it, right? I bought that, and then I bought a Raptor. I was like, well, I got a fucking Tesla and a Raptor, and I'm like, what the hell am I doing? There you go. So that was stupid in like a financial sense. Crazy. Nothing like I don't know. I bought these damn Louis Vuitton wallets for like 5 different people and just got them engraved with, because at Louis you can get your initials. Yeah, so and then I lost mine. So now I have another one because I'm an idiot, but it doesn't have the initials on it. But
it is funny once you like experience a certain level of income, it is interesting how you do gravitate to that being the norm. Yeah. And you just don't stand for anything else. It's really stupid, I know. But I remember back, same thing with a lot of dumb stuff. I bought a lot of dumb stuff. And you call it dumb, but I actually got into buying watches, timepieces. and everyone thought it was stupid. And I, my first one I bought was, and again, I remember at the time I was young. We didn't have very many. I had 2 kids, but they were young. So I spent $7,000 on my first timepiece. And at the time that was stupid. But now, that was almost 15 years ago. That watch is now worth $12,000.
Yes, that's not a stupid purchase.
But at the time, right?
Absolutely.
So you never know what's going to accrue value with it being a purchase. And, there's a lot of different reasons why we do things. I think, with buying that the wallet and the bags and the cars, did you ever have sort of a goal? Like, would you set the goal to go get the Raptor and then go achieve it? Or was it like you had the money and then you just went and wanted to spend it?
No, whenever, and I know you know this feeling, it just keeps rolling in, the money. And you don't need to save for anything.
Right.
Like, if you want it, you just go get it. That's why people always say I'm so hard to buy gifts for, because I just have everything that I want, because I'm terrible, can be very terrible with my money, and at times. And so, just going, no, I never saved for anything, because it was just always there. And there were just these $50,000 override checks just coming monthly. And it was coming, because everything that was done last month gets paid next month. So it's like, you're spending money that you don't have, that is in the pipeline. So it's just not smart. But never saved, just went and bought whatever I wanted, really.
Like it.
Yeah.
That's fun. Luckily, we all grow older. You all get a little more, we get sage. You go through experiences where the money, and this is what I've learned, is that you go make the sales guy money, and you realize that there's no end to it, because if you can actually realize that if you ever want something, you can look at a neighborhood, at a street, and this is how my brain operates, where if I look at a street and I can say, I can go knock these 10 doors here and pay my entire mortgage in the next 2 hours by talking to 10 people, because I know I'm going to sell one of them.
Yeah.
And my numbers say in 10, I'll sell 2 and install 1, right? So it actually starts to get you super liberated when you start thinking in a matter of the bills you start clicking off your list. And then all of a sudden, by day 4, all your bills are paid for. And you're like, now I want to go to Bora Bora. Yep. Now I want to go get a Ferrari. Or all of a sudden, your eyes get bigger. But then there comes a point where, like you said, you start thinking selflessly. And then you watch somebody come in and you take someone and you go get the Raptor with them. I actually have a guy here that is from Salvador, English was a second language. He wanted a Raptor. Same thing, 8 months, went and got him a Raptor. And to watch his life change was way more fulfilling. And so then you start making moves with your team and for your people. And that's when you've made the leadership switch, okay? So now my questions are going to be directed towards the thing I'm actually most impressed with you by, which is leaving the comfort of the team and the overrides that you had and going off on your own. And we actually spoke on the phone. I was at the gym right before you did this, and I was telling you on the phone, I'm like, man, you'll never regret it. When you do, let me know, because I have some pointers for you, but you're never going to regret this. Make the move. And I'm sure you had plenty of other convos with people, but I remember that I was sitting in the gym, actually. I remember sitting in the gym, and you went and you started your own solar company.
Yeah.
CEO of Own Energy.
Yeah.
So tell me about the selflessness that it takes to go, and why did you make that change? What's the differences that you're seeing? Like, what was the move, and why did you make that move at that point?
So what you brought up just a few seconds ago about being able to look at a street and just know that I could just go knock those doors and pay my mortgage. Or it goes back. I always say this to one of my best friends, Tyler Stoddard. We'll send it back and forth all the time. Just rich forever, homie.
Wait, Tyler Stoddard, is he the guy that's really skinny, small guy, short, no muscles?
No, he's like 5'2", 180 pounds. So he's like a short little fat guy actually, but he has really skinny arms.
Tyler's sitting over here right now. Tyler looks like the freaking Hulk Jr.
Yeah.
So
yeah, he's an impressive individual.
He's a specimen. I mean, I mean, don't take him out to the clubs.
Oh well, I have before.
We'll ask that question in a minute.
We always send it back and forth. Just rich forever, homie. And it's just like kind of a thing that we have where we've learned a skill that it doesn't matter what industry you go in. any door-to-door. Door-to-door is not going anywhere. And so solar might go away, but there will always be bugs. There's always going to be alarms. People are always going to need satellite TV. Well, maybe not always, but there's always going to be something to sell door-to-door. And so we learned a skill that we can take with us anywhere and be literally rich forever as long as we're willing to get out of our doors and go knock on, homeowners' doors. So, yeah, I was in a really cush position at my last job. Had a pretty healthy override, and I kind of realized that at the last company I was at that they aren't going to lift the skirt.
Right.
For some people, they're just looking for that paycheck. And so being able to go out and be a part of an organization that provides a system for you to go out and sell accounts and make your paycheck, that's what they're looking for, because they have other aspirations of what they want to do with the money or whatever. You know what I mean? So they don't want a responsibility, whatever it is. But for me, I get bored very, very, very easily. And
is that why you hate your budget sheets?
No, I don't hate them. I just don't freaking understand them. Some of the formulas get messed up, and I'm like, I'm done. I can't fix this thing, so I have to pay someone to fix it. But no, I actually love that stuff. But I love learning and progressing, and so once you start making a certain amount of income, like I talked about before, it doesn't matter anymore. Like whether you make 500, $1 million, $2 million, like. It's just the money's there and you can get whatever you want. So you need more fulfillment and building a team, obviously being successful myself, selling, building a team was successful doing that. And then I just realized that I was just an account machine, for the last company that I was at. And I had some issues where I kind of felt that we were underpaid, on certain things and very just brainwashed almost. But anyway, so I wanted to leave and go build another market. So I went from Vegas to Austin, then Austin to Orlando to do the same thing for them. Mm-hmm. And when I got to Orlando, it's a different market. Orlando is a very, very different market, and their business model did not fit within those parameters of what Florida needed.
Right.
And so I got there, and they just kind of left me high and dry. Mm-hmm. They asked me to go out there. I went out there, packed everything, drove out there by myself. I was like, I'll go do it, and got out there, started selling accounts, but then they all were canceling due to, being priced too high. And then they kept giving me the runaround of, hey, it's just not in our business model to drop the price. And I'm like, well, you guys are one of the biggest companies in the nation, and everybody else is selling a little bit cheaper, but you can't. You know what I mean?
Right.
So they started giving me that runaround, and I was like, this is ridiculous. You know what I mean? Like I want to be a part of an organization that can sell competitively in every single market, not just the ones that you can inflate the price per watt.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
And so I started looking at other options on what was on the table, because there's 428 solar companies in Florida. Okay. And I don't know if everyone's doing great, but there's got to be at least some of them doing it. And so whatever they were doing, I wanted to do.
Sure.
Because I love Florida. And so I started looking around and found that there was other options that were actually very attractive. And I was like, I'm going to go do that. And I just did whatever I could do to learn that little system and adopt it. And that's what I did. So I quit, and they would say otherwise, but quit and just started, getting the train moving. So
love it. What it's interesting too. I actually a couple of things came to my mind while you were talking, because again, we've been doing this too long. We know too many mutual people, and now, for me, and I just wanted to cut it up with you for a minute. No, not an interview, but let's just cut it up as homies for a second. So it bothers me greatly when I move my family across the country 4 times: New Jersey, California, Texas, Utah, for a company, and the market's not what they think it is, right? It's not in their model. And I end up changing everything to fit the model and make it work, but there's still money. And I sit there in these meetings and was told, hey, there's no money in these accounts. We can't sell here. even to the point of making me pay for certain things out of my own, the commission structure, right? And so then leaving the company for reasons we will not discuss here via attorneys, and having the same markets, because I feel like it's a huge competitive advantage. I'm getting somewhere with this, promise. And all of a sudden, diving in and realizing there's a lot of money. There's still a lot of meat on this bone. And why in the world would that company create and take such a stand on that leg when clearly it wasn't the full truth, right? And then you find out that there are other individuals that go to other markets that are similar in revenue, and they're able to bend or change the rules for other individuals that you and I both know in other places, and they make money. And as a CEO now, I look at that situation with a new lens, right? As someone who has to juggle, and I think to myself, man, if I had a guy who was willing to go uproot and move to Austin, move to Colorado, and move and go do it and figure it out well, I would do everything. And I actually do everything in my power to facilitate over and above as the CEO. Why do you think that these companies, because I don't get this, and I've been a CEO now for 6 years complete, and I do not understand why do you think a company would pick somebody, pay them a certain amount of money to go into a certain market and do something that they told you they wouldn't, and you sit back and watch that, and it just is baffling to you. Certain individuals that aren't willing to go out and do the work themselves, they'll tip the scales in their favor for things that they told you completely opposite. And as a CEO, would you ever do that? Or why would you make that move? What would inspire the company to do that thing when you know in your soul it's not right? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do. Whenever you have someone that's with a company from not the very, very, very beginning, I was there whenever they weren't doing really that many accounts,
right,
to what they're doing now, which is actually extremely impressive. But I had set records and I had done things that I had a name for myself there. Mm-hmm. And if I go somewhere and then I start mixing the pot, and stirring it and kind of finding little issues and stuff, well, if they make an exception there and they start dropping their red lines per se, right, mm-hmm, to what's needed for where I was, that eventually is going to get out, and then the whole skyscraper is coming down.
Doesn't that happen anyway, though?
It doesn't. If you stay out of the markets where it's going to show them, open their skirt to where people can see what the actual margins are. Does that make sense? And so if they have one market that's selling 50 cents less, but they're making the exact same, then all the other managers and reps are like, what the hell? They can do it there at this price, but how come? Does that make sense?
Sure.
And so from their point of view, it was just self-preservation, because I am going to say something, right? I'm not someone to just kind of flop over and just be like, okay, cool, I'm just going to make it work with what I have. If there's better tools out there. And so they knew I wasn't backing down. I wanted it to work. I was passionate. I went there for a reason, and it wasn't going to work with the toolbox that I had, and I needed this and this and this, and they weren't going to do it. And so in there, and I think it was just self-preservation of cool, if we facilitate, it'll grow. Someone's going to say something, and then the rest of the company is going to start raising eyebrows like, hey, we're making X, selling X, and they're making the same, selling 30% less. So where's all that other? Does that make sense?
Sure.
Does that make sense? They should have done more market research. I was just a stupid manager. Mm-hmm. I felt invincible. I could go anywhere and do anything, right? They should have done more market research before deploying me out there, right? And so that we wouldn't have been in that situation, and I probably would have still been at that company. But I'm super thankful that it did happen,
right?
Because it gave me a reason to hate them enough to leave them. Does that make sense? And so, not hate's a very strong word, but to be in a position to where it's like, I don't want to make these guys money anymore. I don't care if I don't like you. I don't want to make you a dime. If I like you, I want to make you $1 million. And that just opened my eyes kind of who they were and what they were about.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Oh yeah.
So
it's that it takes a situation like that to actually understand. And I feel like we're not perfect. When you run a business, you got to make hard decisions. And the truth about hard decisions is that there is no easy decisions. They're all hard.
Yeah.
And there's always going to be multiple ramifications. But the one that I don't understand is the self-preservation issue, because I feel like that is a cannibalistic trait in the end, where how are they doing in that market now anyway?
They're not there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So either you are going to self-preserve yourself by letting the people, boots on ground, give you the right intel and figure it out and make the moves, which is what we exactly tried to do. And, you're a product of us doing that exact same thing in our business model right now. And how do we self-preserve? By giving up to go up. And I feel like no one actually, I think it's shareholders. I think it's big box business. And I feel that with you at Own Energy or these other companies like United Energy or these other dealers that can pivot and move, or these other smaller installer companies that can make those decisions, will end up being the future of solar. I mean, look at all the malls right now. The malls are gone. Now where's all the business being had?
Yeah, just online.
Multiple hundreds of little companies, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So why did you pick a small dealer when you could have been a big box business, right? Options.
These larger vertically integrated companies, quote unquote, they create this culture. That's the you can't do it culture by yourself. You can't.
You need me.
Yeah. Because I'm so big.
My volume.
Yeah, and so we can weather storms, and we can, if something happens here, we can have your back, and we have the cow and all this shit. And so, and they're all cool guys. They're all fucking cool. Like, not all of them, but the voices of the company, where they're at.
We're talking about two different companies too.
Yeah,
we're talking about two different companies. But okay,
yeah,
I'll go there.
But they do a very, very great job at getting you to drink the Kool-Aid and believe that they are the best, and that there is nothing better out there. You cannot get more pay. You cannot get better support. You can't get better options, and you can't go out there and have the ability to provide different products to their customers, to give them a truly custom system and provide different loan products and with better dealer fees and better install times. It's not out there. It doesn't exist. You can't do that. That's a fallacy. And then it is out there.
Oh my gosh.
And whenever people are telling you that it's not there, and they're adamant on it, it's probably because they're afraid of like, hey, it actually is out there and I need to keep them where I'm at. Because once they find that out, like I did, that's when people start going and doing their own thing. And dealers absolutely will 1,000% take over the industry, because you can offer any product, inverter, panel, batteries, any loan product between a 7-year to a 25-year, whatever you want between, and better install times, because you're separating the organization. You're taking the sales guys and let them do what they're great at, and then the installers and let them do what they're good at. Whenever you start mixing them, shit gets all weird, right? You have everything's mediocre, but if you separate and you have just install guys and just sales guys, and they're both running their own organizations, you get the two top tier industries just kind of like working together versus trying to mesh it all together in one sphere. Does that make sense?
Completely. I mean, I understand this at my core. In fact, I believe it so much. I mortgaged my house and sacrificed everything, gave up every piece of stock I had from being the fifth guy at a multi-billion-dollar company because I believe this so much, right? Yeah. I also think that you use a great analogy, and I want you to hit on it today, which is we were talking today, and the guy that came in after you, fascinating, he was saying the same thing, like, but this is, and so I actually got our proposals together, and this is so crazy, right? I said, me and you are going head to head, and he's a part of a big box company right now. I said, this is a customer here. You can pick any tool. It's like medieval times. And this is what I told them. It's medieval times. You pick your best tool. I'll pick mine, and we'll go fight for the hand of this fair maiden.
Yeah.
Like I was just being funny because I knew it was going to happen. And I said, pick your loan, drop your price, do whatever you got to do, pick your panel. Let's go give the customer the very best of whatever you can. Let's go win this customer. And I said, you can be the customer. So it's super unfair, but let's go. So we picked the loans. He picked his favorite loan, best loan, pricing, whatever. And at the end, the result was they were using 345 panels, M-phase string inverters for price because he had to get it and save him dollars on this to be most effective because we were talking all around business.
Yeah.
And at the end, it was, and this is where it's crazy. Dealer fee percentage was less than, but it was costing more, which if you're watching, that means someone's skimming, just FYI. So that was happening.
Yeah.
And then it was commissions to the rep. We were paying the rep $3,000 more on the exact same kilowatt system.
Yeah.
Saving the customer $4,000 more on total loan amount and giving them 375 M-phase top of the line panels.
Yeah.
So it was, and he's like, no way. It was just so fascinating to watch the Kool-Aid. And I'd done it for years, but the end result was so crazy that now the shift is happening. So, but to this point, you use a great analogy. So you've been with a couple other companies with other installers, and now you're with another company, and you were talking about creating a toy. You remember that analogy? You're saying this toy, and they want you to play with it, but you don't want to play with it.
Nope.
Do you remember? This was such a great analogy.
Damn it.
Okay, you said that this company over here, they had created and spent all this money and built this awesome toy, this big blue ball, you said. And you said, they want me to play with it. And I got to play with it, and it was actually really cool, and it does this and this and this. And you said, I actually don't, I only played with it for a little while, and then I stopped wanting to play with it. The toy got tiring. It's like after Christmas, 3 hours after you play with your toy, you put the toy down.
Yeah.
And what do you look for?
The next toy.
The next toy.
Yeah.
And what do you really want? You said, I want to play with it with somebody else. I said, I want to play with it with my team. I want to connect with people. So what is it about the current structure that you have now with the install company that you're using now versus the one that you had prior? What was it that made you want to work with those guys? I mean, share with the world. And here's what's crazy, what I've learned about doing this podcast. You can give the exact secret.
Yeah.
You can literally give the secret, and no one gives two shits because no one either has the balls to do it,
Yeah.
the money to do it,
Yeah.
or the know-how to execute it. So it doesn't even matter what you say.
Yeah.
I've actually laid out $1 million things out here, and everyone's like, oh, that's really cool. I'm like, you have no idea what I just told you. So what was the difference? Tell like the last company or the next company, what's the thing that made you want to do what you're doing right now, and why?
So what I was talking about there, I was saying that like some EPCs do have it all figured out, and they have everything balled up in a package where it's a plug and play. You can come right in, and the system works perfect. The stats work, and they'll keep track of everything and keep track of your accounts and whatever. But they just use it, and then it's like, well, like I want to learn about it more and help understand it more, not just use it.
Right.
And that's not how they operated. And they had this amazing formula. You plug and play. That's what they said. And it fucking worked.
Yeah.
But the problem is that you just kind of felt like you were by yourself, just another cog in the machine where you didn't feel like they gave a shit, and they didn't. And in their model, they didn't need to, because they gave a shit enough to build the system that you could use, right? But I feel like most people value contact over content. And so they were giving all the content in the world for you to click on and go through and look at, but they were never actually made you feel like they were there, and they even knew that you were there. And so coming over here, Austin Summers is just a different being. He's really, really, really cool in his ability to. he could be either the greatest salesman in the world or he really does give a shit. But I don't really have a huge history with him, but he always made me feel like we were best friends, you know? And so I value the knowledge and the help that someone gives me more than the things they give me. Does that make sense?
100%.
And so him being there for my calls, you know, it doesn't matter. I kind of feel like I'm the only guy here with him. Like I'm just he's my certified assistant, just to answer my calls no matter what it is. I'll text right back, you know, and it doesn't matter, you know. And so that I value more. And I know I'm not the only one. There's hundreds, you know what I mean? And so that makes
335 actually.
Yeah. Yeah. So it feels good. So it feels good. Like I said, I value contact over content. And yeah.
I think that's so, and I'm glad you said that, because that's the quote that I'll always remember you by. You told me that the very first time I met you. You said, I need contact over content. And I said, I hear you. That's exactly why I'm here doing what I'm doing, because of the exact same thing. You can give me all the tools you want, but unless you're going to actually let me help build it, help me create it, and work with me through it, I'm here for an experience. Yeah. I'm here to learn and grow. We came to this life to learn and grow. And this business has helped me become the man I want to be, end game. Yeah. And so I feel like your contact over content quote is massive, massively huge. Thanks for that, man. I think he's a stud too. And I feel like, you know, when you pick people to be your partners, finding people that are great at what you do is important, so they respect your game, but that they are best at things you're not good at. Yeah. And people will let the tyranny of the or take over that statement and say, well, I need someone who's not good at what I'm good at so I can shine. And then they've got to be great at what I'm not great at. Yeah. Where that's not the truth. I think that the beautiful harmony of the and needs to rule here, which is they need to be great at what I do too, so they respect my hustle. Yeah. And they need to be better where I'm not better, right? Yeah, yeah. So when you've picked your partners, you know, the 5-foot midget and the strapling male model, and Dave, what were you looking, and why did you pick these guys to help be your dudes and your go-tos when you started? You've got 2 studs here with you in the studio today. Shout out Tyler, David. What up, dudes? Glad you're here. What made you want to pick these guys? What was the thing that was like, hey, these guys got what I got, and they are strong where I'm not?
Well, with Tyler, this guy's been through some shit when it comes to solar. Like he's a professional football player. He's done nothing but be phenomenal at whatever he chose to do in his entire life. At least that's what, you know, I view, and that thing was sports. And it's tough whenever you're at that level for so long to go into a different industry and suck. And so he struggled a lot, and I just always took a liking to him. He's just a dog. I don't care. Like, I'm better than all of these guys, just not yet. That's the mentality that he has. And at least that's what, you know, I've found. And that is that's like, man, I want to be with, because that guy, he's great at what he used to be and he wants to be good at this, and he will be. Mm-hmm. And I always tell people in this industry, it's not if you'll be successful or if you can make 100,000 or 200, it's when. Just give it enough time. Yep. You'll figure this shit out. It's not hard, but eventually it just takes time. And he understood that, and I saw it. It took him like 18 months. Yep. Like, he was rough. And then now he made more this month, and it's the 20th. Mm-hmm. He's made more this month than most people make in a year. And he went from making, last year he made less than $75,000. Mm-hmm. And then this month he's made almost that already.
It's amazing.
And so and I knew that. I just knew it was in him. And what's funny is I hired him in Vegas at my last company. and we got really, really close. And then I was moving to Austin, Texas, and I didn't tell him. I didn't want to tell anybody until just at the meeting. I was going to break it to everybody. And at the meeting, I did it. Told everybody's sad or whatever, but they were happy. And then I just get a text from him, and it says, after this meeting, we're going to fight mano a mano. I was like, what the fuck? And I got there, and he's like, I'm going with you. I was like, no, man, you got to stay. You're just figuring it out. Like, stay here, work with the team that we built here. They're going to help. He's like, nope, I don't give a shit. I'm going. And sure shit. He actually moved it there before I did. And then whenever I quit, or I went to Orlando, and he was like, all right, I'm coming with you. And he quit and was with me. But just his loyalty, his willingness to be just as giving as I am. You know, I like to surround myself with other people that care more about other people than themselves. And he embodies that. And he'll be great at anything he does. And I want to be a part of that, you know? So
That's awesome.
And then with David, me and David go way back. He was a superstar stud.
No.
Oh God. So he was, correct me if I'm wrong. He told me once because I asked him, well, how good were you at swimming? And he said, let me just say this. If there was the top, you in this room, if you could fit 50 of the best swimmers in the world in this room that we're in, there's probably 47 that could beat me in the world. Over 7 billion people. And he is on a different level, but probably the greatest athlete I've ever known. I trained with him for probably a year and a half. We were both trying to go into a special program in the Navy, and I was just a dork growing up, played video games, skinny little turd, didn't play sports or anything, and I was like, I'm going to go do that. And so he was already a well-established athlete at his college in UNLV and captain of the swim team and had multiple records, just a stud. And he was doing it too. And he joined the program, and there was like 15 of us, and some guy came up and was like, hey, you know, I want to put on workouts for you guys. We're like, all right. All of us showed up, and it was at 4 a.m. Then and every day. And then the next day, about half as many dudes were there. Then like the third day, half as many dudes were there. And then by the 4th or 5th day, there was just me and him and one other dude. And that was it from then on. And he kind of took me under his wing and never gave up on me. And he helped train me and was just always there, and just always a positive light, very understanding. And he helps keep me like level-headed on a lot of things. You know, I'm very aggressive in my goals and what I want, and sometimes that overshadows what needs to happen. You know what I mean? And sometimes tenderness is more important than aggression, and not in like a fighting way, but I mean, like, sometimes it's better just to pull back and be smooth. You know what I mean? So, and that's him. He's always that level-headed, can see things on a much clearer level, and he is a big reason that, you know, all three of us are together. Me, Tyler, and David. You know, so for many reasons. So
love it. So we got this rock star leadership team. We got the solar being slanged in Florida. So if I'm in Florida and I want to have a great experience and growth as a person, as an individual, learn from great leaders in an upcoming, still thriving industry, in the renewable energy industry, what is it about OWN Energy? Why would I want to join OWN Energy other than the great guys that we've just talked about? What is it? Why would I want to join OWN Energy in Florida?
Well, you're going to surround yourself with guys that are just like you. You know, we're all awesome in our own ways and losers in others. You know what I mean? And so we're just normal dudes that have abnormal desires to be, you know, the best. And so we want to take average people, and we want to take the studs too. That didn't come from average life, you know, but give those average guys that have a shot, that their work ethic doesn't match their current paychecks, and show them that with the right vehicle, they can live a life that they couldn't even imagine. And we've partnered with people for training programs, and because we don't know everything, but we will absolutely go find someone that does, that can give us the knowledge that we need for not only ourselves and our guys, and we've done that. And just being around guys that give more shit about everybody else than they do about themselves. That is the most important part. When you have somebody else that's working harder for you than you're working for yourself, that's the most important thing. Because in this industry, people, and you know it, the whole it's found money. They take, you hire somebody, you don't pay them any money unless they go and sell an account.
Correct.
Well, you hire 100 dudes, throw them out the wall, and hope 10 stick, right? Well, that's 10 dudes that it's just free money, and I hated that. I hate that mentality because I was treated that way. At least I felt that way. And luckily, I'm just stubborn. I was like, I don't care. I'm just going to figure it out. But there's a lot of guys that aren't. And not everybody can be that way and be that stubborn and just, I call it being strategically stubborn, where you have an end goal, but you're just unwilling to give up to get there, you know? And so a lot of people don't have that, or they don't have the means to. And they get thrown against the wall, and they might not stick. And so they have the opportunity to live an amazing life. They just don't have the proper path or the leadership. And that really bugs me. And so I want to make sure, I always tell the guys that I bring on, I don't ever bring on too many guys at once, because I don't ever want anybody to feel like I don't care about them.
Right.
And so we only bring on guys that we can facilitate, because I don't ever want to have anybody in my hands that I drop just because I'm being careless with my power, you know, where I'm hiring and firing. Well, I had the choice to hire you, and I said yes. Well, I have an obligation for you to be successful, you know, and give you everything I have. And if I don't do that, then I failed as a human. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, yeah. It's your responsibility, your mantle, it's your thing. So, last question: if you found out that you were passing on through this life, and you had a son, and you had 30 seconds to give him the most valuable piece of information to help him be successful, and he knows you love him, okay? But what would be the one lesson you've learned in life that you would want him to remember you by, and also that would resonate and help him the most in his life? What would be the one lesson in 30 seconds that you would pass on to someone, to your son, if you were leaving?
Just always be okay with the fact that you might be wrong. And that once you stop believing that, then you're done. There's people that are the same when they're 20 years old as when they're 40, when they're 60, when they're 80, because they think that they have it all figured out. I firmly believe that every single one of my beliefs personally, I could be wrong about. Every single one of them. Might be the smallest percent, but I'm okay with that, because I want to be wrong. And I would hope that my son would embody that, so that he never stops looking for the truth. And that means wanting to be better human, better friend, better worker, more proficient. Yeah.
Love it. I'm so glad we talked about your background, being raised, because at the end of this, it makes complete sense why you are who you are, why you care so deeply, why you like to connect, why you like contact, why your whole team is like you with the care and the charisma. But it's more important to give someone your heart than, give them your hand. But what I've noticed about you is that you're always very quick to offer your hand after you give someone your heart. So, dude, big shout out to you, man. So proud of you. Always have kept my eye on you for the last 10 years, watching you come up. Actually, sorry, 5 years. My time's getting away. 5 years.
You've been watching me? What the hell?
10 years, 5 years. It feels like that long. I think because I think back on it because it was when I took over the Southwest market.
Yeah.
It was 10 years ago, but it wasn't 5 years until you guys came into the picture.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but man, time goes by quick. But from rep setting records to team setting industry records to, you know, running your own company, CEO, and more than anything, a man of value and with a character that is somebody that actually cares about people. I just want to tell you, man, I appreciate your friendship. I'm so grateful to be working with you, and I'm so glad we got this out there because you got a lot of good things that people need to hear.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I appreciate you taking the opportunity to speak to me and learn about Own Energy and who we are and getting me out here. So,
love it, my man.
awesome.
Thank you, dude.
Thank you. See you later.
Thank you for listening to the Doors to Success podcast. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe for more. Visit B.Holmes.com for more information on how you can join the B Print.